Purpose really is to get to know each other and to learn from each other and about each other, and hopefully to have a bit of fun and enjoy it and get to know new people.
Because our Islamic months start with moon, that's why 10 days every year.
Keep talking and you don't understand.
Many people think about Muslims, you hear many news. If anything happen is about Muslims. So as a Muslim, when anything happen, we prayed all night. We can't sleep because we are thinking next day when you hear the news is about Muslim. So there's too much, you can say, depression and many things.
I was thinking what to ask the young people here. I think they're little, girls are great, I love girls, but they boys are shy to speak, so I like to make them speak more.
There are nights you go down there and you really don't get anything done. But it's actually very enjoyable, right? It's there from 7:30 to about 9:15 on Wednesday night.
The other person, when they hear you can't even drink, I say no, no drink, no eating, anything.
At all.
It starts from 3 a.m. and when sunset time, about 9. Every day 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Down to dusk.
Yeah, when sunset comes, then we start eating. Yeah.
We burn the sun. For my country, we are only 15 hours, but here is 19 or...
Because our Islamic months start with moon, that's why 10 days every year go back. Actually, when the time coming, everybody thinking I eat this one, please make pizza and please fry the rolls and please this one. But when we just drink the water and we start with dates, after that we can't eat anything because belly is full with water. So just you imagine the food and you can taste. But here easy, in my country is very difficult because nowadays there's a temperature about 40 to 45 degree. So it's very difficult in the country.
My name is Caoimhe Carey and I am 16. I've been living in Carrigtwohill all my life. I live in West End, the main village, so I would be considered a villager because when I walk up to school every day, the amount of people that would say hello to me is like, it's really nice. I mightn't know who they are or what their name is, but they could just say hi and it's just a really warming feeling. I went to the primary school, Carrigtwohill in Carrigtwohill, and I'm going to the St. Al's Secondary School, which is right next door. My house is very old, it's been there for a long time. My dad's granddad built the house, so that's 4 generations nearly. But yeah, my dad tells stories all the time about it, that he used to help his granny and granddad work in the fields that they had, and they had chickens and pigs and horses, and he used to go out and pick potatoes because they had a potato field. So I love hearing stories about my granny and granddad, the way my granny had to walk from Limlaura to Carrigtwohill to go to school, and just hearing all the stories of, they used to run across the fields, and because she lived out in the countryside, so she used to go across the fields with her sisters, and they used to just have like loads of fun. Like, it was kind of like free. My family name has been here for centuries. Every weekend I was with my granny and granddad for the 2 days, and I used to always, we weren't allowed, but I used to always go into the fields, and if there was haystacks, that was a plus. You could jump on the haystacks. And then you'd hear my granny shouting from across the fields, like, supper's ready, and we'd come in and we'd have our bacon and cabbage and our cup of tea at night. I would like to go to college. I'd like to do an arts degree and 2 years teaching and become a secondary school teacher. I'd love to teach in St. Al's. I'd love to come back to that school. I don't know, I want to be that teacher that, like, makes you enjoy those years.
I'm 57 years in Carrigtwohill. I was born in a rural part of the west of Ireland, in County Roscommon, in a farming community. And but I'm here for 57 years. I came here as a member of the Guard of Síochána, and I'm retired now for 22 years. I went to school, a local school, it was about 3 miles away, and when April would come every year, it was normal for everyone to go in the bare feet to school, and that was that's the way we used to do it. And we went to a boarding school then, and got our exams with a struggle, and eventually landed here. It was Carrigtwohill when I first posting as a guard, and I was with another man from, we were together for nearly 37 years, a man from West Cork, and he's dead now, North of Mercy, and times were tough, and we met some individuals now that, you know, like they gave us a fairly rough doing, but we got over them all right. And the Border Fox was down here, and Dominic McGlinchey and all those crowd. We came across all those people down here in our heyday, because like Carrigtwohill was very Republican. That it was a kind of an IRA village at the time, and there was that time, and the people didn't want to be seen talking to the guards in a lot of cases. But with the influx of visitors then, we were, like that all went away, so it did. The biggest change in Carrigtwohill since I came here is the influx of people from all parts of the world. And, like I certainly am delighted to see them here, every one of them, because they really made this village. At the moment, there's a Syrian family going to come in here to Carrigtwohill now, and with the local community, they're being housed and looked after. They will be housed. The house is available for them at the moment, and that's the spirit of the people in Carrigtwohill.
My name is Suela Mara, and he's my son, Dennis Mara. We are from Albania. We live in Ashbourne House accommodation. It's direct provision. I'm there from nearly 6 years. And what can I say? The life, it's not easy. Especially when you live in direct provision, you're coming from another country, you move, everything is different. You're alone. Albania for me always is going to be home. And I always, I miss, and always I'm going to miss Albania. Even I left for my reasons. Home is, where is the family? And I have only my 2 boys. And it's home, but not completely. I'm really happy because I have met a lot of Irish people, which they have helped me a lot. At the beginning, I couldn't even think that they will help me, and I got a big help from them.
I was born at Tullagreen in Carrigtwohill, and I'm here ever since. I moved a few different houses, but I ended up here as postmistress on the main street in Carrigtwohill in 1979. So I'm there ever since. I retired then in 2009. The main street, there was more living there 20, 30 years ago than there's now, but the buildings are still there. We had the nuns teaching us. We had 3 classrooms, 3 nuns from the convent teaching us. Out of my class now, I could count the few that are still living here. They've immigrated to all the corners of the world. Coming up to winter, when the fires, or what they call it, the fires would have to be lit for the winter for heating for the school. There used to be a local man, he used to provide a donkey and bush, as we'd say, to go to Fota for sticks and, mostly sticks and limbs, and bring them back. We used to go in our turns and bring them back to the school for heating for our winter. During summer holidays, well, we hadn't a farm or anything, but we used to go over to Fota, tinning beet, and there was big long drills on the field where the Fota Golf Club is now. About half a mile long the drills would be, and we'd tin the beet there. And where Barriscourt Castle is now, well, it was always there, but there was a bog where the bypass is running through, and we used to go down. I used to go down with my father cutting turf, coming on to September or so, for getting ready for winter. There wasn't much social life around until this community hall was built. I don't know when, I can't think. But there's be dances here every Sunday night then, and plays during Lent. But otherwise, we'd have to go to Middleton or up to the City Hall or Arcadia. They were our dance, our hurling matches. We used to go to the hurling matches. The field, well, the hurling field was where it is now, but not as modern. There were just furze bushes around that time. So we used to play camogie. We started a camogie club, but we didn't get much farther. The annual sports day, to be usually July, I think, July they used to have them. Running, jumping, cycle. They used to have cycle racing on the grass. Yeah, we'd won great. Winner, he won Ross Talton, Willie O'Brien. He was great, and he used great at the sports days. We used to look forward to seeing him racing on his bike and running. I had John Hart and Willie Hart. They were great they won many race.
I am from Leitrim, that's where I was born, that's where I was reared. And I grew up in the 50s and the 60s. And at that time there was a lot of poverty in the country. I didn't like school. I hated the schools that I went to. And when I left school, I went with some colleagues, and we went to London to work. So it was the old case of immigration. There was nothing unusual about that at the time, because there was droves of people going to London, and there was also those handful who went to the United States of America. So I spent a fair number of years in England, working in London and Birmingham, and was in Scotland for a while. And it was over there that I became a social worker, really. I worked in the education service. And then how I got into Carrigtwohill is that it was through meeting my wife, getting married and coming back to a job here in the mid-1980s. And at that time, there was again yet another sort of crisis, an economic crisis. One of the tasks that we had to do was to try and create jobs in and around Carrick, to employ people, to employ young people. When I came here first, I suppose that, yeah, I would have been conscious of coming back from England and having an English accent, which mightn't endear you in what was an IRA town, if that was ever true. But certainly I would have been conscious of that. There was certainly a kind of a Republican element, as it were, here. Not that they ever interfered with me or I interfered with them, but it had that kind of a reputation. Whether it deserved it or not is another day's work. But at that time, coming back here and getting my feet here and being welcomed into the community, it was, still quite rural, and I could adjust to that, having come from a rural town myself. And then gradually the changes started to happen. There was investment when the IDA, they built business parks and industrial sites, and because of the strategic location of Carrigtwohill, it kind of grew. Once they put in the new roads and that, it meant that Carrigtwohill became an attractive place for investment, development of businesses. So you gradually got all these new factories being built. Now this has all happened over a period of years. And with that, times changed, because there was an influx into Carrigtwohill of people from all over the place who came to work in the industries, and some of the industries were state industries as well, Some of the changes would be like you would have had at one time. Of course, the church was very influential and very powerful in terms of in the schools and that, in the education system. That's kind of changing, for the better. Carrigtwohill would have a great GA tradition in the hurling and the football, and I think that was another thing too. There's a bit of that success rubs off on you as well, There's a great sense of community here and people looking after each other. Now, how long that's going to survive into years, the coming years, I don't really know. Part of the change as well is in the change around the role of men as there is in the role of women. But when I was growing up, being a man was one thing, and men were seen as very much doing the work, having the jobs, bringing home the paychecks. Women were very much confined to the home, or they were just probably school teachers or nuns, or they worked in offices before they got married, and that was it. That is gone. And like the men's shed are an idea that was started in Australia and has now spread. And I think Ireland has more men's sheds per head or whatever it is than any other country. That's a bit, I think, the background to them. And it also reflects the change, I suppose, in the man's role as well.
My name's Jennifer O'Neill, and I've been living in Carrick my whole life. I used to live in Rocklands, the estate, but then we moved to Ballintubber. And I went to the primary school in Carrigtwohill, and then it's not right next to the secondary school, St. Al's, so I went straight into that. I have loads of friends here, and it's a nice community, and everyone really knows each other, it's small. I usually hang around the village. We go to Mace or to Thai Irish or to the pitch or something, and it's nice.
I was born and reared in Carrigtwohill, lived here all my life. Much the same as what Anne said. We grew up during the war. We had a great time. Plus we never had anything before, so it didn't make any difference to us. And we used to play down at the bog, which is now all built up. That was all right until one day Peggy O'Reilly fell into a bog hole and that was it. So we weren't allowed on there anymore. People got on fine, really, you know. There was... I don't remember any hardship anyway during the war. We didn't know what war. I remember my mother coming in and saying, "Oh, the war has started." I don't know what she was talking about. I was only 5 or something. And we dug an air raid shelter over in the back of the school. Great big hole in the ground. We were never allowed into it. That was out of bounds. I don't know what was going to happen if we went into it. There was a sheet of galvanised iron over it. That was the air raid shelter. We were never really short of anything. Sweets, maybe. We used to get 10 toffees for a penny, but on Saturdays, but that was all. But then we didn't have a lot before the war, so we didn't make much difference. We grew up and changed. Carrick has changed completely. I don't even know who's living next door to me now. And there was a time when we knew what was on everyone's mantelpiece. I hated school. I avoided it as much as I could. And I had very good neighbours who used to help me. Willie Conroy. He used to make excuses and write letters to me to say I couldn't get to school. But I worked all my life in Cork then. Enjoyed that. I was on a switchboard, so I knew half the country. There was no mobile phones that time, you know, or anything. And every creamery had their own phone. There was no big co-ops. So I knew every creamery manager in the county. I enjoyed it. Then I married and I lived in England for 3 years. Hated it. And came home. And that's it. Still living peacefully in Carrigtwohill.
My name is Abdurrahim Artan. I'm from Ethiopia. My nationality is Somali. I'm living in Cork, 8 months now. It's good. That's my background. I'm 19 years old. I'm in Glanvera now. I'm in asylum seeker in Ireland. Before I was in Sweden 3 years, but now I'm here. 6 months in Cork, 4 months in Dublin. When I'm coming here, I did not know English well, but I can speak a little bit now. When I'm coming here, when I travel from my country, I take a ship, Egypt to Greece. When I was in the Mediterranean Sea, we was 120 people in a 90-meter boat. We are in the middle of Mediterranean Sea, and then we don't have anything to eat, and the machine of the boat has stopped because the gas of the machine is ended. We was the inside in the sea 4 days, only water, nothing to eat. That was first. Then the boat fell down. 7 of people they died in the Mediterranean Sea. Then I come in Greece. I take a train by Croatia. Then I take a bus to Germany. I come Germany. Then I bus it. I come in Sweden. I take asylum in Sweden 2015. And then they reject my case. I moved. I take a ship in Sweden to Finland. I take an airplane to here. And now I'm here. I'm happy to be Ireland. I think the people of Irish people, it's good people because they talking to you. I was in Sweden in 3 years, the most people not talk. But the first time when I come in here, most of the people they talk to you, hi, how are you? Are you fine? Just like this. And you feeling happy. That's it all. I want to study English first, then I take a little bit construction skills. Then I want to be start in a university. For my country, it's need a new civil engineer, new building, because many civil wars, in my country, all the buildings destroyed, and I wanted to rebuild. That's what I wanted to. Most the second Ethiopia is a many population. The second population is a Somali. That's why I'm a Somali.
I was born during the war years, and Mary said it was all right, but things were tough. You got 3 loaves of bread in the week, and like you could imagine, a young fellow now maybe around 10 or 11 years, so he'd eat a fresh loaf of bread anyway. He'd eat it in the one go nearly, Tea was scarce, as she said, but you could buy tea for £1 a pound on the black market, We had a teacher, and he was meant for Irish. And I'd say we came out of it as dunces, because we hadn't Irish or English, we had nothing, if you like. But we got work that we didn't need, great education. And I worked for a while in the forestry, planting trees, and you wouldn't want much education for that, But I finished up anyway in the Romy Dockyard in Cove. Transport that time was a bicycle, and if you hadn't a bicycle, you could walk, and you'd be lucky, I suppose, to have a bicycle. I knew every house, miles from miles around me, you were welcome into every house. Then came the television, and if you went in when there was any program that they liked on, well, you would not build the in. So that finished, visiting neighbours. Yeah. I spent the most of my life hurling and bowling, and playing cards. And the hall opened here then, and there was be a dancer from 8 to 11, was it, I suppose. And during Lent, you couldn't dance in the Dyson line. And we would go up to Cork to the Gresham Room, to St. Francis. Pitch and toss was a great thing that time, I don't know what you ever saw it on that, but you put down the stone and you come so far back, and you throw the pennies, you throw the pennies, and whoever would be nearest to the jack, they used to call it, the stone, would get all the money to toss it. And you can keep the heads and you lose the halves. They were rough old times, but to see, I suppose the people at home were different. They'd live in the corner of your meal. Everyone grew fruit potatoes and they had vegetables, and the most people had a cow. And they might buy a pig and rear the pig and kill the pig, and the neighbours would get a bit, and they would make the black and white pudding. And they was making out of blood and bread, I think. The blood, they keep blood and the blood and bread, and they was big grand. Well, can I told you the train as long as I can remember. And I can remember women walking down to the train, and there was a woman not too far from me now, and she used to make the butter, and she used to have eggs, and she would take the butter and eggs up to Meddens in Bridge Street, is it, I think. But I can remember free boats you get free boots, and there were paper soles, and if you wore them in the winter, the sole just fall off. They were desperate, yeah. And
Who gave the free boots?
Huh?
Who was giving free
I
boots?
suppose, I don't know. My father was working for a farmer anyway, and I don't know, they'd be called farm labourers, and sure, like they wouldn't have a whole lot, and I suppose they'd give it in according to your means, but sure, I think that nearly everyone got them. You know, so like a lot of the small farmers, like they were badly off too, like, you know. But, and I suppose, if you like, everyone kind of was, if you like, even, but then there was a lot of this class distinction that time, and that's gone now.
My name's Iris, I'm 15, I go to St. Aloysius College, and I went to Carrigtwohill for primary school. I lived in Carrigtwohill for probably like 5-6 years. I came to Ireland from Germany when I was 3, and I've been to all places in Cork, so like Mahon, Blackpool, or just even the city, or Blackrock. In second class, I moved from the Blackrock school to Carrigtwohill in Carrigtwohill, and that was like a big change because that was all my friends. But since it was like from a young age, I'm now used to Carrigtwohill. I mean, my dad's from Nigeria and my mom's from Germany. They met when my dad was studying in Germany. And then, yeah, when I was 3, they moved to Ireland. When I first was in primary school, I had no English at all, but I learned it really fast, surprisingly. And Irish, I still find hard, so that's fun. There were a lot of children around in our estate, but I didn't talk to any of them until my dad was like, "Can you talk to my child?" And then they started playing with me. I have a lot of friends there now, but with school, I don't have a lot of time to go outside. So I have in-school friends, and then we go out a lot. Like I have a lot of friends here, and I've lived here for a long time. And like growing and developing yourself here would make it home. So yes, I'd say Carrigtwohill is home.
My parents were the local teachers in the boys' school, and I went to the national school. And Sister Celestine was the principal there, and there were 3 other nuns. It was an all-girls, all-nuns school in those years. I walked to school. It wasn't very far from the Cove Road, and walked home in the evening time. Usually went to the shop, collected bread at Murphy's shop, and went home and played outdoors for most of the fine weather. Winter time, we had the radio and what we called a gramophone. And then in the evening time, we went for a walk after school. We went as far as what I know as Slatty, which is now Bramley Lodge, and quite near Fota. We went into Fota and walked around in the trees and had a bit of fun. My brother was 15 months older than me, and I had 3 older sisters. In my early teens, this particular hall was a Winston Hall, I think, and it opened, and it was very, very enjoyable here. Lots of friends. It started at 8 and it was over at 11. I can't remember how much. I'm sure it was about 2 and 6, which was an old half-crown, and we enjoyed it immensely. And we didn't venture as far as Cork to nightclubs in those days. Well, they weren't there anyway. And that was my childhood. Then I married, and I didn't marry a man far from here. He was from Glounthaune parish, and I've lived in Glounthaune since. But this is still home. Carrigtwohill is where I was born, and I was here until I was 26 years of age. So I've seen lots of changes here. All the children in the national school, they walked long distances. They walked from Ahanis, which was near Middleton. It would be 4 miles at least. And then from the northern side, they came from Clooney, nearly Limlaura. And I think they also had 3 or 4 miles to go. And they came to school, and we had the cloakroom, and I can still get that smell of wet clothes and the coats, and they weren't very good quality. They weren't Tommy Hilfiger or otherwise, I can assure you not, they weren't even waterproof. And those children all day long sat in the classroom and soaked in that dampness, and we had so-called radiators, which was very mod for a national school. But when I say radiators, Sister Celestine used to have us down instead of putting in blocks, wet blocks, and by the time they got hot, it was time to go home. I went to the secondary school here, and I was the only girl from 6th class that year to go to secondary school, despite the fact that it was there, because it was fee paying at the time, and there was a lot of poverty, and I was just one to go to first year in that year. So I imagine now there's probably more in half a class now than was in the whole school. It was a boarding school in those days, and I was the only day pupil in the class. And I was completely lost, I might as well tell you. But all these people, and I had this black dress and black, they weren't tights, I suppose stockings in those days, black shoes, because we were like, you see, it was, the convent in those days was a preliminary school for the novitiate. And everybody was in dark clothes. Now, a girl in my class, who I can remember, who was my friend at school, she cycled to Cove to the vocational school. And unfortunately, I'm sure she got very wet on a bicycle going to Cove, and she died of TB quite young, which was nearly the order of the day in those days. And the others, some of them went to board, not in Carrigtwohill, but in various schools. And there were 2 farmers' daughters in my class, and they went down to Ramsgrange in Wexford. It was a kind of a finishing school for farmers' daughters.
Hello, my name is Alfredi Hallow. I go to CCC in Carrigtwohill and I am 16 years old. I went to the boys' school in Carrigtwohill, the Scoil Nefa. It was an alright school, that I could say at least. When I was there, I didn't really enjoy most things in the school besides just playing football and like hurling and all those sports, yeah. Nothing much, just didn't like working class, yeah. Over the summer, I usually just go and play football, like football, soccer, if you didn't, yeah. I would just play soccer and usually just play PlayStation, like who doesn't?
I was born and reared here. Father had a garage down the bottom. They used to be giving out about him. His mother used to be always giving out about him. He gave up work on Fool's Day, I think in 1930. He was after buying a Hackney car and he went into Hackney business. And then he built a garage down the bottom, a small side of factory, like call it. And he developed from there. And even the Hackney cars during the emergency, they weren't allowed to go to any sporting fixtures or anything like that. They couldn't go to a match, nor to a race meeting, or to a course meeting, or anything like that. They have to be, I suppose, funerals or weddings or the usual stuff.
Just bad for business.
No pleasure was attached to it anyway. So I went to school down in the old school down the hill, as we used to call it. It was all right, you know, I couldn't complain. We could, I suppose, at the time. We thought the teachers were tough, you know, but looking back on it, they weren't as bad as we thought they were. And we've a lot to be thankful to them for. The whole boys' school that time would be an average about between 60 and 70. That's the whole school, whole boys' school. Now there might be 100 in the roads, but there would be attending school every day to be around between the 60 and the 70 mark. Because if we reached the top mark, we'd have got an hour's play, which didn't come my way too often. When I'd be going home from school, I'd be passing, my father had the garage down there, and I'd be passing the garage and I'd be shouted at. And my sack hardly ever got into the house until tea time. because I had to go in and give my hand. That was my social life for a lot of the time. But we used to go playing hurling and football the same as everybody else, maybe some bowls, and we couldn't complain about that at all. We enjoyed that part of it. I went to Cork after to vocational school, so well, there was a good few went to travel down and did well enough for themselves. Well, there was a few of them became teachers now and electricians, and I suppose there was a carpenters in it, and every kind of trade was a big thing in those days, you know. If you were lucky enough to get into it. I went and served my time as a mechanic then, and we came home and worked at my father for a few years until I retired myself. So
I'm pre-war. Well, that's the Second World War. Born in 1935, so I'm well pre-war. In a place called Carrigtwohill, which is actually on the map at the point where Cork, Tip and Waterford meet. And brought up on a farm, a small farm. At that time, the dwelling was a thatched house. Later on, then it was improved and slated and so on. No electricity, no piped water. Walked to school mainly across fields, and would have walked about 2.5 miles across fields. If I went by road, it'd be 3 miles. And back home in the evening. There was a long and varied road. I spent 5 years among the immigrants and was brought back to be chaplain to Nazareth House in Mallow, which is an old people's home. And to come from the heart of London and, you know, immigrants, you know, there'd be huge problems with them, and people down and out, and people in all sorts of difficult circumstances, and that you have to try to help. And within 3 months I was landed into Cove, and I started as a junior assistant priest there, and I was there for 24 years and 9 months, and I suppose the big thing in my life was that it was decided to re-roof the cathedral and to restore it at a cost of 4.25 million. And the bishop said, "Dennis, would you have a go at it?" So that's it. Raise 4.25 million. Grant. My appointment to Carrigtwohill, in fact, was they wanted to place me where I would continue the cathedral project. So I was nearby. I know that a certain eminent man in Carrigtwohill said that Carrigtwohill had descended to a low level because they know I had only half a parish priest. We retire at 75. We are expected to send in our letter of offering resignation at 75. So I did that, and I wrote to the bishop and said there's a spare priest's house in Carrigtwohill, and I'd like to leave my bones in Carrigtwohill. So that's it. I was very happy to be allowed to stay. There is the decline in mass attendance. There is the huge influence or influx of people from outside Carrigtwohill and from different nationalities and so on. And because of my experience through life, I think that's a good thing. You know, it's good to meet people from different backgrounds, because that's what you're doing in, say, for me in London. I mean, where else could you get that kind of experience, you know? So I'm very happy with it. Whether they're happy with me is a different thing. I am very much at home in Carrigtwohill, but I would say, like, I would have to say that nearly every Sunday I head for Arglen, and I still call that home.
My name is Vanessa. I'm 37, going into 38. I feel like I'm 18 some days, 88 some others, but it's okay. I live in Carrigtwohill since 2010. I have 2 children, 2 dogs, a guinea pig, a husband, a mortgage, 2 cars, which are too many, and soon I will have my own business running. It's a mobile cafe, so we're gonna bring beautiful food instead of fast food to the people of Carrigtwohill. I'm hoping to have a lot of customers, but most I'm hoping to give work to other women who are, for any reason, in my same situation, which is not being able to go out and work full time. In the meantime, I'm volunteering a lot and I love it for the community. I am the PRO for the Community Council. After college, after university, I came to Ireland and I was in Nice working for people of my own hometown. They have businesses, mostly fish and chips in the country, traditionally. We are apparently very good chippers, but it was terrible. Then I got a job offer because I was looking all the time for work while I was working for them, and after 3 months I got a job offer here in Cork, so I straight away moved to Cork. I have my family here. We bought the house in 2010, so we were we intended from day one when my son was born to give him a future where there is proper education, services, social protections, and a lot of other things. Because I love this place, I love the people, I love everything about it. I love that my son can go in the field and play. And my daughter, from age like this, she could barely walk. The same, behind her brother, I feel very safe. I love my neighbors. It's nice to be here and be able to meet people who speak so many different languages, who come from so many different places. The other day we had a party in my house. It was my son's birthday, and the room, my kitchen at a certain stage looked like the UNICEF. the children of all colors united, you know. It was amazing. All of them. You could count all kind of people, all kind of religions, backgrounds. And this is what I love about this place. It's what made me stay, that we are all different, but we are all equally treated, which is a very, very important thing. Most the summer, my parents, and I don't know. I miss speaking my dialect, which is different from my own language. So I speak officially 3 languages, unofficially 2 more. Where your kids are happy and where you are happy, that is your home. And it's very important to be happy where you are. You can miss anything, food, a lot, yeah. But not really. We learned how to cook. I learned how to cook. Maybe if I was in my own country, I wouldn't have needed to learn how to cook properly. Because mom would have been there on a Sunday. Do you know the usual things you do when you have family close by? So we had to reinvent ourselves as mother, grandmother, aunt, cousin, brother and sister all at the same time. We are, yeah, it's strange to miss things. I don't think I miss anything in particular except for the summer, really, and my parents, that's all.
Well, I'm Isabella, and I've been filming for the past few weeks with Yi, and you know, well, I've been interviewing people, and you know, for this project, and I live in Limlora, so yeah, and I go to Carrigtwohill School, St. Aloysius. It's been really fun, like getting to know people. That's been really good, and it's nice to refresh on, like, you know, working camera and all that kind of thing. Because this summer I'm making a film, like, yeah, so it's quite a big project, you know. Like compared to the things that I normally do, they're quite small, like they're not like big projects. So yeah, it was nice to refresh and recap on like working camera, and like, you know, even asking questions and stuff, you know, will help me to direct people.
I would find the camera work very interesting because the editing work wouldn't be new to me.
Like, we get to hear old stories from people from the community, and it's just nice to hear their side.
It isn't a bad old place.
It's a friendly place to be in, like, they welcome everyone in. No, I love Carrick. It's a good place.